Course to steer, practice problem 5. Let's get into it. Course to steer, practice problem 5. It reads, while on a course of 66 degrees true, a light bears 13 degrees on the port bow at a distance of 12.3 miles. Gives us our course. We're going to extract this information. Our course is equal to 66 degrees, 066 degrees true. A light bears 13 degrees on the port bow. It gives us our bearing of that light. Our bearing is equal to 13 degrees on port at a distance of 12.3 miles. It gives us the distance to that bearing. The distance to the bearing equals 12.3 nautical miles. And then it goes on to say, what course should you steer to pass 4 miles of beam of the light leaving it to port? So there is the question, course to steer. What course should you steer? That is the question. What course should you steer to pass 4 miles of beam of the light leaving it to port? So it gives us another distance. It gives us the distance of beam. We want to leave that thing, which is 4 miles, 4 nautical miles, and it's to the port. We want to leave it to port, so on our port side. To solve this, we're going to make our triangle. Say, okay, 66 degrees. Where's that? Here's 0, 90, 45. It's going to be something like 66 degrees. And then it's somewhere in this realm. This is actually the bearing, right? So this is 66. It's 13 degrees away from 66, whatever. It's in this realm. But we need this side of the triangle. So we're here. We cite the bearing here. And then what do we want to do with this bearing, which is a light? We want to leave it 4 nautical miles to port. If we want to leave this object 4 miles to port, we need to be over here, right? If this is our ship and we want that to port, it's over here. Visualizing these and laying out these lines and putting your pencil down and making sure it's to port is important in these. So we leave it to port, which means we're over here. And it's a beam to port, which means this is 90 degrees. And then it gave us a couple of these lengths, right? Distance of beam was 4 miles. That's 4. And the distance to the bearing was 12.3. So when we sighted that thing, it's 12.3 away. This is 12.3. And we need to find this angle here, which we call theta. Good. Let's find that angle. How do we find that angle? We're going to use a formula. And our formula says theta equals sine -1 times opposite divided by the hypotenuse. That's going to give us theta. Well, what's the opposite? It's relative to this angle. The opposite is 4. So 4 equals the opposite. What is the hypotenuse? The hypotenuse is going to be across from the 90. It's going to be this 12.3 equals the hypotenuse. Now we can plug those numbers in. We can say sine -1 opposite 4 divided by hypotenuse 12.3. What does that equal? So theta equals, let's plug it in our calculator. Second, sine -1. And then we put in the division, 4 divided by 12.3. 4 divided by 12.3 equals 18.9. We round up to the whole degree, 19 degrees. 19 degrees. This theta is equal to 19 degrees. And now we find our course to steer. Here's our original course, 66. 0, 66 degrees true. And it said that we saw a bearing 13 degrees to port. So if we're at 66, right, here's just, this is important to keep straight. 0, 90, 180. We're over here at 66. And we see 13 degrees to port. So what do? We're trying to figure out, do we add or subtract this 13 degrees? Do we add or subtract this 13 degrees? Well, if we're on 66 and we sight it 13 degrees to port, what's that look like? 66, that thing's over here, 13 degrees to port. We're correcting towards 0. We're going to subtract. Minus. 6 minus 3 is 3. 6 minus 1 is 5. That's 53 degrees now. So now we're at 53 degrees. And we're going right towards, this line is actually what we're representing now. 53 degrees. And we need to correct 19 degrees. Do we add or subtract that 19 degrees? Let's figure that out. So we leave it 4 nautical miles to port. So if we're at 53 degrees and we want to leave it 4 miles to port, what do? We correct our course this way. What are we doing? We're going higher. We need to add. So 3 plus 9 is 12. 2, 5, 6, 7. We get 72 degrees true equals to our course to steer. And let's check. Look at that. We have a 72 right here. And we can check. 5 is A, 72 degrees. Excellent. There's 2 more problems, problems 6 and 7, to try on your own. Don't get stumped. If you get stumped, go back to these videos. It's the same steps, just over and over and over, same steps. So don't be worried. Calculator, same steps. You're gonna be fine. All right. See you in the next set.